Welcome back to Joe Stunner Boxing. Christian Mbilli moves to 28 wins with no draws, no defeats. He's got 23 knockouts on his record. He defeats Sergiy Derevyanchenko over 10 rounds. Now, both guys suffered injuries in this fight. The broadcast picked up the injury to the left bicep of Derevyenchenko. I think it was towards the end of the fourth round. And that obviously hampered him throughout the fight. If it is a snapped bicep, torn bicep, whatever, that's an incredibly painful thing to fight through. But Derevyanchenko fought through it. Okay. However, having said that, Mbilli, he had his own injury because after the fight, he had a big ice pack on his left shoulder. He said that he was unable to use his left hand that well. We didn't pick up on that throughout the fight, but I certainly don't think he was faking it. I mean, both guys were hampered with injuries. So when you consider that, the fact that both these guys just fought through, absolute pain, absolute discomfort, this was actually... in different ways, this was an achievement for both guys. Mbilli disguised his injury well and went on to win most of the rounds, if not all of them. You can make a case for it being a shutout. I'm not entirely sure whether Derevyanchenko won any rounds. Maybe, thinking about it, one of the early ones, perhaps. And it wasn't that he was getting early on, at least for the first half of the fight, he wasn't being completely outclassed. It's just that Mbilli had the look of someone who was, much younger, much fresher, far less wear and tear on him. He just had that youthful vigour, that sort of verve that younger fighters have. He is 29 now. Derevyanchenko's 38. And if you know anything about Derevyanchenko, you'll know that he's fought a who's who of the middleweight and super middleweight divisions. So he fought Gennady Golovkin, which was his first defeat. Jamal Charlo, he lost. Those were both unanimous decisions. Carlos Adames, he lost a 10-rounder to him. He then beat Joshua Clottey on over 10 rounds. Jaime Munguia, he went 12 rounds with him. He was on the floor from I think it was a body punch in the last round. And now Mbilli, and he's got 15 wins and 6 defeats. All 6 of those defeats have been on points. But all 6 of his defeats have been probably in his last 9 or 10 fights. So this guy, even though he's fighting at the absolute top echelon of both the middleweight and super middleweight divisions, he's taking beatings, he's taking hammerings, and post-fight, he was back. Derevyanchenko was back in the dressing room, crying, very, very upset. Apart from the bicep injury, he had a lot of abrasions and swellings around his eyes. Bad grazes and not bad cuts, but grazes around both eyes. And being Ukrainian, prior to the fight, he was saying that he fights, to show the world what warriors Ukrainians are. There's obviously the issue with, the war going on over there. And he kind of represents his people. That's how he perceives it. So post-fight, he was heartbroken. He was heartbroken, bless him. I mean, but let's not take anything away from Christian Mbilli, because Derevyanchenko is a handful for anyone. He's a guy who will make you work. He might lose every round in the fight, but he'll make you work. And so it proved with Mbilli, because at the start, Mbilli, again, with that youthful energy, this is the style he fights. I don't think he can fight any other ways, to go forward and throw punches in bunches. He tends to, I think Mbilli is very effective at what he does, but I still think there's a little bit of wouldn't say it was an accident waiting to happen, but I think he's not difficult to figure out. He tends to walk in the front door. It's not like a lot of people have said he's like Mike Tyson. He's not like Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson would bob and weave, make himself smaller, and then explode, sort of spring up and explode on opponents. And Mbilli just tends to walk forward. There is some very slight lateral movement, but once he gets into range, bang, bang, bang. The punches just are. It's like a fusillade of punches. It's not really like there's necessarily any meaning to every single punch. It's just, I'm going to overwhelm you, I'm going to bat you, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. And he does it. I mean, he's done it with other fighters as well. He got rid of Mark Heffron in 40 seconds in his previous fight. Okay, Heffron's nowhere near as good as Derevyanchenko, but Mbilli is good at what he does. It's just that when he meets someone who can soak up the power and the pain and work through it, which Derevyanchenko can, then I can see someone who's a bit younger and a bit fresher than Derevyanchenko, but has that innate toughness, giving Mbilli some serious work. And Mbilli, of course, as a super middleweight, wants to fight Canelo, and don't they all? That's the big payday. I see Canelo beating down Mbilli in pretty much the same way that Mbilli beat down Derevyanchenko. Derevyanchenko, should he retire? I don't really. Personally, I'd like to see him retire. It's not my decision, of course. I don't like to, demand that someone retires just because they've taken a beating. I mean, look at Derek Chisora, for Christ's sake. But Derevyanchenko at 38, even though he's going to be a handful for anyone, hard night's work for anyone, he is a brilliant gatekeeper type. But I just feel that he's going to get hurt if we don't quit now. The amount of punishment he's taken in a career that spans only 21 fights is pretty horrendous. And in the second half of this fight, that's when Mbilli showed how much younger, how much fresher he is, because he just put the heat on Derevyanchenko. And the fight was almost stopped in the corner between the 8th and the 9th. They were asking Derevyanchenko, who was just so exhausted and so beaten up, "Do you want to retire? Do you want, you want to? You got one more in you? Yeah, no problem. Maybe they should have pulled him out. I don't know. It's, but he managed to go the distance anyway, and he wasn't on the floor, unbelievably, despite all the punishment he took. It was hard to watch towards it. Timothy Bradley was on commentary. He was screaming that the fight should be stopped. Look, I'm not going to doubt Timothy Bradley. He was in that incredible war with Provodnikov, and he's been in the ring many times, been a world champion. Who am I to cast shade on him or what his opinion is? But I suppose it's that eternal question about where do you get the balance right between pulling a fighter out and letting a warrior continue. But anyway, getting back to the fight, I mean, I thought Mbilli just poured all over Derevyanchenko in the second half of that fight. Again, I know I'm repeating myself, but he looking younger, looking fresher, looking like he had more energy. Derevyanchenko had the air of an extremely tough, older fighter who'd seen it all before. Didn't quite have enough left to go through the gears and ask the questions of Mbilli that I think a younger, fresher, equally tough fighter would do. Mbilli is a good fighter. But if you put him in against Canelo, if, let's say, for example, Benavidez came back down to super middle, or David Morrell came back down to super middle, I don't see Mbilli beating them. Him and Edgar Berlanga would be a good fight, although Berlanga's got Canelo. To me, he's an A- fighter. He's good. He's entertaining. A B+ fighter, maybe, but not quite. There's just not enough variety, not enough subtlety, not enough ring IQ to put him at the very top of the division. And it is a talented division, I still think Benavidez and Morrell could come back down to 168. I could be wrong. They've got belts now, but Neither of them looked particularly good at 175. And I think that might have just been a case of stopping off there, you know, and trying to carve out their own little niche until Canelo eventually decides he wants to, he can fight them or he can beat them. He's ducked both of them, there's no question about that. But certainly one person that he's got no reason to duck is Christian Mbilli. That'd be a good fight, but I see Canelo winning that fight. I really do. As for Derevyanchenko at 38, difficult to see where he goes from here. He is a terrific gatekeeper, but how much punishment do you want to see one guy take? We say this about others. Derek Chisora being an obvious example. Joe Joyce is another example. But I don't know. I think, I think maybe the time is up for him. But I don't know. You tell me. You tell me. What's your opinion? What do you think of the fight? What do you think about Mbilli? How far do you think he can go? And am I being, perhaps you disagree. Perhaps you think Mbilli is the future of the division. I think he's a very good fighter, but I do have doubts whether he can jump to that sort of A+ standard. But you tell me. You tell me what you think. Give me your opinion. And thank you for watching the video. And also subscribe to the channel if you're new, because it takes a second and it helps us out. And, hit the like button if you like the video. And if you didn't like the video, hit the like button. Know what I mean? All right, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks very much. Looking forward to reading your opinions, and bye for now.